I had worked tirelessly for months, staying late at the office and sacrificing my weekends. I thought my efforts would finally be recognized with that promotion I deserved. But the day of the announcement, everything changed. My best friend, the one I trusted more than anyone, walked up to the manager with a smile I didn't recognize. She accepted the promotion with confidence, almost as if she had planned this all along. I stood there silently, unable to breathe, unable to voice my disbelief. My heart raced, but I knew that showing my anger or hurt wouldn't solve anything. So I stayed silent, pretending everything was fine while my mind screamed in betrayal. How could someone so close, someone I shared secrets and dreams with, do this to me? That smile she wore, it wasn't just happiness, it was triumph, and I was left questioning my trust, my judgment, and our friendship. I walked back to my desk, trying to act normal while my mind replayed every conversation, every joke, every late-night chat we had shared. How could she smile like that while I felt shattered inside? I wanted to confront her, to demand answers, but something inside me whispered to hold back. I watched her from across the office, her laughter echoing in the hallways as though she owned the moment. Every congratulatory message she received felt like a knife twisting in my chest. My colleagues smiled and cheered, oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. I kept typing, pretending to focus on my work, but my thoughts kept drifting. Betrayal doesn't always come with shouting. It often comes quietly, hidden behind smiles and polite words. And in that quiet, I realized I needed a plan, a way to reclaim my dignity without letting anger define me. Later that day, I found a quiet corner in the office cafeteria, trying to gather my thoughts. I replayed every detail of the promotion process, every meeting where I had poured my ideas and effort. The injustice of it all weighed heavily on me. My best friend, someone I trusted with my ambitions, had taken what was rightfully mine. I kept my silence not because I didn't feel anger, but because I realized that acting impulsively would only make me lose more. Instead, I started thinking strategically, how to prove my worth, how to ensure that my talent couldn't be overshadowed again. I drafted notes in my mind, imagining the moments I would rise above, showing the world my capability without uttering a single word about her betrayal. Sometimes staying silent is louder than any confrontation. The next morning, I walked into the office with a calm I didn't feel. Every glance from my colleagues felt heavier. Every whisper seemed louder. I caught my best friend laughing with others, proud of her temporary victory. But inside, I was planning my next moves carefully. I reminded myself that real success isn't taken by sneaky smiles or shortcuts. It's earned through dedication and resilience. I quietly documented my contributions, emails, and reports, preparing to make my work undeniable. Every achievement of mine was like a quiet echo of truth, waiting for the right moment to be recognized. The silence I held wasn't weakness. It was patience, a strategy to rise higher while keeping my integrity intact. And I knew that when the time came, no one could deny the value I brought. By noon, the tension in the office was almost tangible. People were starting to notice the contrast between my quiet diligence and my best friend's boastful attitude. I overheard a few murmurs, some praising her, but others questioning how she got ahead. I kept my composure, smiling politely, but my mind was sharp, analyzing every detail, every opportunity. I began volunteering for challenging tasks, the kind that demanded real skill and effort. Slowly, I could see colleagues turning their attention to my work, acknowledging my competence. My best friend noticed the shift too, a flicker of unease in her eyes. I didn't gloat, I didn't react. I simply let my actions speak louder than her words ever could. It was the first subtle victory, and I savored it quietly, knowing the bigger ones were still ahead. By late afternoon, the office atmosphere had shifted slightly. My best friend tried to involve me in casual gossip, expecting me to react with jealousy or frustration. I kept my cool, nodding politely, but I didn't engage. Instead, I focused on completing my tasks efficiently, exceeding expectations with every report and presentation. It wasn't about proving her wrong, it was about proving myself right. My manager, who had been quietly observing, started noticing the consistency and quality of my work. Little by little, colleagues began seeking my advice and support, recognizing my capability. I could sense a subtle shift in my best friend's demeanor. The smug confidence she had earlier was fading, replaced by unease. I didn't celebrate or comment. I simply continued on my path, letting my work and patience silently speak louder than any argument ever could. By late afternoon, the office atmosphere had shifted slightly. My best friend tried to involve me in casual gossip, expecting me to react with jealousy or frustration. I kept my cool, nodding politely, but I didn't engage. Instead, I focused on completing my tasks efficiently, exceeding expectations with every report and presentation. It wasn't about proving her wrong, it was about proving myself right. My manager, who had been quietly observing, started noticing the consistency and quality of my work. Little by little, colleagues began seeking my advice and support, recognizing my capability. I could sense a subtle shift in my best friend's demeanor. The smug confidence she had earlier was fading, replaced by unease. I didn't celebrate or comment. I simply continued on my path, letting my work and patience silently speak louder than any argument ever could. That evening, I stayed late at the office, double-checking reports and preparing for tomorrow's meeting. I could feel the quiet tension from my best friend. It was unspoken but palpable. She tried to smile and act normal, yet her eyes betrayed her unease. Meanwhile, I focused on my tasks, reviewing every detail meticulously. I wasn't angry, I was determined. This was my chance to shine, to let my actions speak louder than any words or petty competition. By the time I left, my manager stopped me, quietly commending my dedication. "I've noticed your consistency and attention to detail," he said. That small acknowledgement felt like a victory far greater than any promotion. I walked out calmly, head held high, fully aware that my integrity and patience were already proving my strength. The next morning, I arrived at the office earlier than usual. I wanted to stay focused and not let the previous day's tension distract me. As I sipped my coffee, I noticed my best friend lingering near the entrance, pretending to scroll through her phone. Her posture screamed guilt, yet she wouldn't meet my eyes. I stayed silent, choosing to observe rather than react. Soon, colleagues began to arrive, greeting each other warmly. I kept my head down, replying politely, while my mind strategized my next steps. Every small success, every acknowledgement from my manager, felt like a quiet triumph building within me. I realized that true victory wasn't about outshining someone else. It was about proving my own worth, consistently without losing dignity. By mid-morning, the tension in the office was almost tangible. My best friend tried to casually mention the project we had both worked on, but her words felt hollow, empty. I smiled faintly, nodding politely, but inside, I felt a mix of anger and disappointment. I thought about how she had smiled when taking the promotion, as if it were a game and I had been just a pawn. Yet, I reminded myself that reacting hastily would only give her satisfaction. So I focused on my work, letting my dedication speak louder than words ever could. I felt a quiet sense of power growing, not from revenge, but from self-respect and resilience. Soon, the manager called a brief meeting, and I prepared to present my progress confidently, refusing to let anyone undermine my abilities. The meeting began, and I presented my work with calm precision. My voice was steady, my explanations clear, and every detail meticulously outlined. I noticed my best friend shifting in her seat, trying to maintain a confident facade, but it was cracking. The manager asked questions, and I answered each one confidently, leaving no room for doubt. I could see surprise flicker across my friend's face. Perhaps she hadn't expected me to shine so brightly. In that moment, I realized that silence had been my strongest weapon. I didn't need to confront her or prove anything in words. My actions and competence had already spoken volumes. The room was filled with professional energy, but inside me, I felt a quiet triumph, a sense of reclaiming my own worth without lowering myself to bitterness. After the meeting, colleagues started complimenting my presentation. Some whispered about how impressed they were with my analysis, how clearly I had explained the complex numbers and projections. I smiled politely, nodding while keeping my mind focused on something bigger. My own growth, not petty rivalry. I glanced at my best friend and saw her expression faltering. The fake confidence she had carried earlier was now replaced with unease. I realized that no words were needed to show her the difference between genuine skill and superficial ambition. Every smile and handshake I received was a silent acknowledgement of my hard work, a quiet but undeniable proof that my dedication could never be stolen. My silence wasn't weakness, it was strategy. It spoke louder than any argument or confrontation ever could, leaving a mark that could never be erased. By lunch, I decided to take a walk outside to clear my mind. The spring air felt crisp, almost like it was helping me breathe away the tension from earlier. As I walked, I replayed every moment of the morning, every smile, every compliment, and yes, every look from my best friend that now seemed hollow. I realized I didn't need to prove myself to anyone. My work would speak for itself. I felt a strange mix of calm and determination rising within me. I wasn't angry anymore, I was focused. Focused on my next steps, my next projects, and most importantly, my own growth. If she thought she had won by taking the promotion, she was wrong. Success wasn't about moments or titles. It was about persistence, consistency, and the silent satisfaction of knowing I had done my best. Later that afternoon, I returned to the office, my head held high. People noticed the change in me. I wasn't the same quiet, anxious colleague from the morning. I greeted everyone politely, yet with a subtle edge that hinted I had grown stronger. My best friend tried to make small talk, smiling as if nothing had happened, but I didn't bite. Instead, I focused on my work, completing tasks with precision and efficiency. Every click, every report, every email I sent silently reminded me of my value. She may have taken the promotion, but she hadn't taken my confidence, my dedication, or my reputation. I realized revenge wasn't needed. Sometimes the best response is excellence. I could rise above without saying a word, letting my actions do all the talking. By evening, the office buzzed with chatter about the promotion. I overheard whispers about my best friend's victory, and I felt a small pang of anger, but I quickly replaced it with determination. I reminded myself that this moment was temporary. My skills, my work ethic, and my reputation were long-term. I started planning ways to contribute even more, taking on projects others avoided. Each completed task became a silent statement. I was capable, committed, and unshakable. I no longer needed to compete directly. My results would speak louder than words ever could. Watching her bask in temporary glory made me realize something crucial. True power lies in persistence, not in the fleeting satisfaction of deceit or manipulation. The next morning I arrived early, notebook in hand, mentally preparing myself. My best friend waved at me casually, smiling as if nothing had happened. I forced a polite smile in return but stayed focused on my own goals. Today I decided I would not let envy or betrayal slow me down. Each email I sent, each meeting I attended, I poured extra effort into every detail. I realized that silence could be stronger than confrontation. While she flaunted her temporary success, I quietly built a foundation for long-term achievements. Every step, every choice was a silent declaration. I would rise, not by competing with her, but by being undeniably better at my own game. By afternoon, the office buzzed with the usual chatter. She passed by my desk with that same smug grin, holding a folder of documents I had worked on for weeks. Inside, anger bubbled, but I didn't let it show. Instead, I focused on finishing my current task perfectly. I remembered every late night, every extra effort I had put in. My work ethic couldn't be stolen. When my manager called me into the meeting room, I walked in confidently, prepared to present a report that would speak louder than words. For the first time, I felt a calm clarity. Silence wasn't weakness, it was power. I would let results do the talking. She might have taken my promotion for now, but she could never take my dedication or my integrity. The next morning, the tension in the office was palpable. I noticed whispers as she walked by, clearly trying to flaunt her victory. But I stayed focused, ignoring the drama. My work spoke for itself. Every chart, every analysis, every detail meticulously done. When the manager complimented my recent project, I felt a quiet satisfaction. She tried to intervene, adding her input unnecessarily, but I calmly countered with facts and figures. The silence I maintained made her visibly frustrated, and I realized my restraint was a weapon. I didn't need to argue or complain. My results were undeniable. The satisfaction wasn't about revenge. It was about proving that integrity and persistence outshine arrogance and opportunism. By mid-afternoon, I noticed the change in her behavior. The smirk she wore every morning had started to fade. Colleagues who once avoided me now subtly acknowledged my contributions. I felt a strange mix of relief and vindication. She tried to corner me during a meeting, attempting to undermine my suggestions, but I responded with calm confidence. My words were concise, backed by data, leaving no room for debate. The silence I maintained before, once mistaken for weakness, was now clearly my strength. People started noticing that I didn't react impulsively. I observed, calculated, and acted at the right moment. It was strange how patience could feel so powerful. I didn't celebrate her mistakes. I celebrated my growth. Later that day, I overheard her whispering to another colleague, trying to twist the story to make me look petty. I smiled quietly to myself, knowing the truth was visible to everyone who mattered. My focus remained on my work, my dedication, and my professionalism. She realized that manipulation wouldn't work anymore. Every small achievement I completed was recognized, not just by my supervisor, but by the entire team. I began to feel empowered in ways I never expected. The silent battles, the withheld words, and the patient endurance were paying off. I didn't need to confront her directly. My consistent actions spoke louder than any argument could. Victory, I realized, was often quiet and unnoticed until it was undeniable. The next week, the promotion announcement came again, this time for a new project lead. I received it and she was left staring, speechless. I didn't gloat, I didn't rub it in. I simply smiled, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction that only comes from patience, integrity, and resilience. All those silent moments, the quiet endurance, the controlled composure, everything had led to this. The lesson was clear. Real success isn't about shouting or dragging others down. It's about proving your worth through consistent actions, even when nobody is watching. She had underestimated me, underestimated my patience, and underestimated the quiet strength that grows when you refuse to engage in petty games. And in that moment, I understood that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's just living better, stronger, and with dignity.